And welcome back to Live Now from Fox, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Pache, continuing to bring you always the very latest live look right now at Nancy Guthrie's home. The disappearance investigation continues. It is now on day 17. And right now, we want to always get the latest from TMZ. TMZ's Michael Babcock joining us here with the latest. And Michael, you know, it seems like every time it looks like could be a crack in this case, it seems we stall out then.
Mike, I think, and hi, Mike, I think that's a perfect way to put it. I mean, the gloves that were found, especially when we learned that there was evidence inside of those gloves that police believe they may be able to get a DNA match, and to now find out that the gloves did not return a match after the DNA was extracted and it was ran through that CODIS database, which is essentially a database of around 27 million people, Mike, who have been convicted of different crimes over the years. And obviously the hope was that the gloves found, the DNA is run, the match pops up in CODIS, and they can then say, okay, that's the person who was on Nancy Guthrie's doorstep on that night 2.5 weeks ago. And because of that, hopefully that will lead us to where Nancy Guthrie is. Not the case. There was no CODIS match. So now you've got authorities who are, going with plan B, C, whatever it might be here, Mike, to try and find some sort of usable evidence with this glove. And there is still some level of hope. What they're going to do now, Mike, is focus on genealogy. So essentially, think of like an Ancestry.com or a 23andMe. Although those two big companies don't participate, there are smaller companies who do work with law enforcement, and now the FBI will go to those companies and they will say, this is the profile we've got. Does this match either anybody in the database or anybody that might be related to the person whose DNA came from this glove?
Yeah, I mean, you're just hoping that the family is going to get some relief soon, but then there's just all these roadblocks that happen along the way here. Michael, what do we have been knowing about? We heard earlier in the week that there was these pacemaker sniffers that the agencies like the police, like the FBI, can try to put on helicopters and get some sort of read if Nancy was out there in the desert.
Yeah, and they were using that, Mike. I mean, we've spoken with people, and that's in fact true. The issue with those signal sniffers is that they need to be very, very low, and you need to be in very close proximity with the device. So you've essentially got to have an idea of where you're wanting to search, and then you take the helicopter up and you fly it really low, and then you see if you can pick anything up. Obviously, at this point, there has been nothing like seemingly every other place that this investigation has went. They've gotten nothing concrete back from that method.
And lastly, Michael, is the worry here that this was not a kidnapping maybe at all, that it seems like for investigators, they would want a ransom to happen so that you would have this open line of communication where you would be able to talk, maybe not directly to that, but the family could at least. There hasn't been any of that.
Nothing. And I think that's a great point, and I think that's a scary point, too, when you really start to analyze what the different outcomes could be here. If you were somebody who did take Nancy Guthrie, why have you not then reached out and tried to exchange her for this ransom, which I assume would be the motivation for taking somebody? Why now on, what are we, 16, 17 days, why have to be responsible for keeping an eye on an 84-year-old woman who is not in good health? It just doesn't seem to logically make any sense, and I think that's probably the scariest part of this, Mike.
Yeah, it really is, and we're hoping that we'll get that email and we'll get that notification from Pima County that there's going to be a news conference with something big there, and hopefully some relief for the family soon, but we'll keep on waiting. Michael, thanks so much always for the latest info. We appreciate it as always from TMZ.
I appreciate you having me, Mike. Thanks.